Are you a teacher and struggling to figure out how you're going to manage all of the things that come with your role? There's so much to keep on top of, right? From preparing your lessons to tracking administrative tasks that you have to complete, to making sure you don't miss and are prepared for required or probably required events. Hi, my name is Dr. Monica Reshavi, and welcome back to my channel. I'm a former high school teacher, college professor, and higher ed administrator. I now run operations for an online education startup. In this video, I'll teach you how to get started with using Notion in a simple and practical way by walking you step by step in how to create your own teacher's dashboard in Notion with one database to track all the things and area pages to help surface what you need to see when you need to see it. Let's get started. I like to start by showing you what your teacher's dashboard will look like at the end. You'll see that you have 3 areas: lesson plans, events, admin tasks, and you have one database, everything database. So we'll be building this throughout this video today. Don't hesitate to pause, give things a try, start it again, or maybe even watch the video all the way through and then give it a try yourself. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And what I love to do when I'm showing a training like this is to put the finished product, in this case, the teacher's dashboard, on one side of my screen. And then I will open up another version of Notion, another window. And to do that, I just do File and New Window on my menu bar. And then what you'll see me do is I'm going to pop out this side navigation bar on this side because I'll work with this one. And I'm going to close it on this one to give it a little bit more space. And I'm going to create my new demo database while you work along with me. So first, I'm going to go ahead and add a page. And this page I'm going to call the teacher's dashboard. And in my case, it's a demo. And it's going to be an empty with an icon type of page. And the reason I'm choosing that is because I want this to be just a page that serves as a home base of sorts of all of my different area views and my everything database. You'll see I always choose an emoji for all of my pages. I like to pick the apple when I'm doing anything academic related. And I always like to make sure that when I make my new page, if I go up to this 3-dot menu, that I've made it full width. You won't notice it too much right here, so I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger for you. If I don't make it full width, do you see how this has kind of big margins on the left and right? That's just because it's not full width, and I prefer to have a full width side when I'm working. So again, I'll start off with this single page, and then what I'm going to do is make the different components that you see here. So first, I'm going to add a heading for areas. Now, you can add a heading really easily by just doing the / key on your keyboard and choosing heading, or you can make it even easier and use Shift-3, which is the #, and space, and that makes a heading. So I'll call this areas. And then I'm going to give just a background color to areas by clicking it and choosing color. And next, I'm going to create the 3 pages that make up the different areas of typical teachers' lives. So first, I'm going to do lesson plans. So I'll do / and page, and I'll call this lesson plans. And this is going to be another empty with icon page because it's just going to be a container to hold my database views. And I think I'll use the notebook for the icon here just because I'm going to match it up with the finished product. Now, all I have to do next is go back to my teacher's dashboard. Notice I'm using the navigation menu here, but I could also use it on my left sidebar like this to go back and forth. To make another page, I can just click on what I just made and choose duplicate, and it makes another one. Now I'm just going to rename this one so that it's called events, and I'll change the icon here to be a calendar. And then again, I'll duplicate it one more time for events and for admin tasks. And I'll change this one to the check mark. So now you can see I'm starting to have something that matches. I'm missing the cover though. So if you like, you can add a cover, which is also sometimes called a banner too. Just click up here and you'll see add cover. And I'm going to go ahead and use an unsplash image, and I'll go ahead and make it match. But I think when I searched earlier, I used school, but there's a lot of different ones. So I'll make it match and go ahead and pick the pencils. If you didn't know you can hover on this and choose reposition and then move it up and down. And this is especially handy if you're looking at your Notion database or your Notion page on a mobile device, and you can have it look just right. So right now we have our areas, our lesson plans, events, and admin tasks. And as a reminder, these are all pages and they're empty pages right now. Next, we're going to go ahead and create our database. Next, we're going to create your one and only database for this project. I call it the everything database because literally everything goes in one database. So you'll see on the right-hand side, again, this is my finished product, my finished teacher's dashboard. I have my everything database below a database header. So over here on my working side, I'm just going to hit enter and add a new heading, and I'll call it database, and I'll put some color to it. So I'll click on it, choose color, and I picked a purple color here. Next, I'm going to create a new page. So I'll do /page, and this time I'll pick a database type, so a table. And for the type, I'm going to pick a new one because I already created this everything database before, but I'm going to pick a new one. So for mine, I'm just going to call it everything, and I'll put demo after it so I can keep them distinguished, but you might want to call it just everything. You could also call it everything database if you'd like. I'll add an icon to this one. And what I like to use is something that's somewhat newer to Notion. You can pick, in addition to emojis and custom, you can also choose icons. And I'm going to use the check mark in this gold color. So now I have a database called Everything Database Demo, and I'm going to be using that for my Everything Database in this training. I want to add a couple of different fields to this database, and this is where I'm going to be capturing all of my information. So on my right-hand side, my finished product, I'm going to click on the Everything Database so you can see what I've put into it so far. So you can see 3 database entries. It's important to remember in Notion when you have a database, every row is an entry or an item, and you can open up each item and put all kinds of things inside of them. You can even put more databases inside of pages or inside of database entries. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to use it as a basic entry capture place to put all of your information. So there's 3 entries here, and there are 4 views. And views are just different ways of looking at the same information. And you can have it be in a table, you can have it be in different types of views, and we'll get more into that. But for right now, let's just set up the different fields that we need. So first we have name, and this is what's going to be the first thing you enter for each task or informational item that you put into this database. You can rename this if you'd like. I've seen sometimes people rename it to tasks or items or to-dos. I just typically use name. Then for an area, I'm going to rename the default tags to be a area field. So I'm just going to double click on this and choose, see, my mouse is acting a little funny. So I'll change it to area. And it's a multi-select field, meaning I could have more than one choice selected here. And I'm going to edit the property so that I can add more options here. And if I click over here on my finished one, I'll go to edit property. You'll see I have these 3 options. So I'm going to add those 3 here. So I'll do add an option, and the first will be events, admin tasks, and lesson plans. You can change these to be different colors if you'd like. Notice these colors don't by default match what I have over here, but that's okay with me. The way you change the colors is you click on the arrow next to the option and you can pick a color. You can also put an emoji in here as well. You can just click on here and go in front of it. And on the Mac, it's Shift Command Space. And sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. So then you can bring up an emoji to put it there. So next one I'm going to do is add another property. So I have my name, I have area, and then I'll put a date. So I'll click this plus and I'll type date to choose the property type. And it's going to be called date, so I don't have to rename that. I'm not going to make any changes to this. So I'm just going to hit enter. And when I click outside of it, you'll see that I have name, area, and date. Now, there's a couple other properties on here as well. I have comments, tags, and status. So in order to add comments, I'll just click the plus. I'll type comments. Actually, excuse me, this is the type of field it is. So it's a text field, and I'll call it comments. So now we have comments. Next will be tags. So I'll type this type is going to be a multi-select again, and it's tags. And then finally, status. Status is a type of filter that Notion added somewhat recently. It used to be people would just use multi-select or single select, and now there's a status field that gives you some built-in options of to-do, in progress, and complete. You can get pretty complicated with statuses, but I just want to point out that you can add more options to each type of to-do, in progress, or done. So for example, I could add another complete status called finished. and it's just a different type of status. Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, I like to note that I'm done something with a different word, like reviewed or finished or done. But now I have my status field, tags, comments, date, area, and name. Now, the last thing I'm going to do to edit this particular view is I'm going to update the fields that I have for the tags field. So you'll see that I've created a couple of different options here: class 1, department chair, and college-wide events. This will become more clear in just a little bit as to why I have this, but for now, let's just go ahead and make them so you'll see how they work. So for tags, I'll click on it and choose edit property, and I'll add a few options. Now here, I'm going to use the emojis. So I'll have class 1, I'll have department chair, and I'll have college-wide events. And then I'll click outside of it, and then I just know I have those options now that I can select. So looking again back at my finished versus the one that's in progress, I have all of my fields set up for the all area or the all view. And I'm going to rename this view so that it's called all as well. And the way that you do that is you just right click on a view and choose rename, and then you can rename it. Are you interested in receiving my best productivity tips for teachers, academic administrators, and students? Then you'll want to sign up for my monthly email newsletter. It's action-oriented, and I only share resources and tips that have worked for me. I've included the link to sign up below this video. Next, I'm going to create a lesson plan view, an admin tasks view, and an events view. So if I click the plus, I can go through the process of creating it, or this is a shortcut I prefer, so I'm going to delete this view. I can just right-click on all and duplicate that view. What that does is it brings in the same database information, otherwise it may ask me to connect to a new database. And I'm going to call this lesson plans. And now you'll see, because I have my window a little bit smaller, they're collapsed underneath each other like this, as opposed to being side by side. But if I took this window and made it a little bit bigger, they would be side by side again. So now I have a lesson plan view. With the lesson plan view, if you look on my finished side, you'll notice that it's showing me some information about my particular lessons or my classes and lessons for that. Now, the way this is happening is it's set up with a filter. So I have a filter that says that I want the area to be lesson plans. So here I'm going to set a filter up on it. So I'll go to filter, area is lesson plans. And then I'm finished putting the filter one for that one. Pretty easy, right? So next I'm just going to make it also for admin tasks and events. So next I can duplicate this view again. And this one I'll call admin tasks. And for this one, just like I did over here, I'm going to set up my filter so that it has an area of admin tasks. So filter, area, instead of lesson plans, it's now admin tasks. And finally, for events, I'll just click here again. I'll click the hamburger menu and choose duplicate. And finally, I'll call this events. And again, setting up the filter so that instead of tasks, it is for events. So now what we've done, and I'll go ahead and make the working one full screen for now. We have several different views set up on this one database. We have all, which will show you everything because there's no filter turned on. We have lesson plans, which will just show you things that are tagged with the area of lesson plans. We have admin tasks, which will just show you content that is tagged with admin tasks. And we have events, which will just show you content that is tagged with events. So in order for this to make a little bit more sense, it would be helpful to have some information in our database. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my all side again, just to fill it in here as well. And I can copy paste between the two. So what I would suggest that you do is you put in information that suits you. So these are just some different tasks that I thought up that I had to do in my daily life when I was teaching. There were all kinds of different events that I would have to attend, but also typical things like prepping for a lesson or maybe getting ready to turn in paperwork to the department chair. So this first lesson plan has to do with a lesson plan. This second, doing a roster confirmation checklist, was an admin task. And the last was an event that I had to attend. And then all of these things had dates associated with them. And I would encourage you, if you're thinking to yourself, well, all my things don't have dates, try to give it a date anyway. I find when I give a date to something, I'm more likely to get it done on time or early, as opposed to thinking that I don't actually have to get this done by a particular point in time, which then makes it stretch out a little bit longer. So again, I'm just putting in some comments right now for each of those events. And I loved having information like this in terms of comments here, as opposed to just being inside of the entry, meaning when you click on the actual entry and expand it, because that way I could see it without having to open up the entry. So I'm just tagging these with the specific item that this had to do with. And I have them all for not started for now. The last thing we have to do to make our different views look like what you see here is just a little bit of grouping. Because if you notice when I go to lesson plans, instead of it looking like mine does right now, which just is an inline row, it has a grouping. So if I had more than one entry here, so for example, I'll do another one. Prepare lesson for class 2 of ITG 149. But instead of it being class 1, I'm just going to change that and make another class here. And let me put an emoji in front of that as well. And I'll create class 2. Now, do you see? Instead of it just being under class 1, I have information under class 2. So right now, for example, though, it looks like it's under both. And the reason for that is because if I look into this, I have both of those tags here. So all I have to do is take that other tag off. And now that information is associated with class 1, class 2. And this is great because you can expand and collapse these things as needed. In order to make it look like this, though, you have to set up a very basic grouping. And to do that, I'm on my lesson plans view. And this, again, is the finished one. I went to the 3-dot menu and group. And you see it's grouped by tags. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and go to the 3-dot menu and group and by tags. Now, some of these groups, though, I don't want to show because this is just lesson plans, and some of these things don't have to do with lesson plans. So I'll go to the 3-dot menu, and when I go to group, you'll see that there are visibility icons here, and I'm only going to want to see things that have to do with lesson plans here. So I'm going to take off events, take off department chair, and I don't want it to show me if it doesn't have a tag. I could keep that on, though, because sometimes it's nice to have that visibility for the no tags because it reminds me to tag, but I'm going to take it off for now. So that visibility is done. That I've set it up for grouping by class. Next, for admin tasks, I'm going to put some grouping on here as well. And I will group this by tag as well. And for the tag grouping, I'm going to take off the class 1 because I don't have admin tasks related to my teaching when I was teaching. College-wide events, technically there could be some tasks for that, so I'm going to keep it on. Department chair, definitely some tasks, and I'll take off the visibility for the no tags. And then finally, I'll go to events and I'll also set up the grouping for these. So group, and this is going to be by tags again. And for visibility, I'll take off my class and I will take off department chair and no tag. So we've now set up all of the views that we need to for our 4 different areas of all, no grouping, but you could put grouping on it if you'd like. For example, a grouping that could be nice would be, for example, group by area, because then you could see what you have across the board. Lesson plans, it's grouped by class. We tag and it just shows class. Admin tasks, we are showing the not with the tag right now, so I'm going to take that off. But for the admin tasks, I am going to not have on things related to the class because actually I have the class on, but I might not have things related to events because they're admin tasks. And then on events, we have things related to events. So next, what we're going to do is just go ahead and take a look at how we put all of this work onto our different pages. So let me show you side by side again. So I'll take this back and you'll see again, we have our areas, we have our database. And on mine, when I go to the finished product of lesson plans, I'm on a lesson plan page. And here, if I go to the lesson plan page, looks pretty empty. The only thing different is that I have added the database with the lesson plan view. So here's how you do that. So on your lesson plans page, if you do / and type the word create and choose linked view of database, I'm going to pick my demo database. You'll pick yours called the everything database. And when I do that, you'll see I can copy an existing view. Well, I'm going to copy lesson plans because I already set that up the way I'd like it to look. So as you'll see, I have the lesson plan here. And again, the reason I have another class here is because I created one. So I could create another class here as well, add a group, and I could call this class 2. And I'll just put the emoji in front of it. And done. And now I have another class, and I could put information like prep for prep syllabus. And so I have all the information related to my lesson plans from that one database showing on this view. Next, if I go back on both sides, we have the events view. So we'll go to events, and you'll see on the events page, I have two different views. I have the events listed, and I also have events as a calendar. So the way that you set this up is just like you did for lessons. You just / create linked view of database. You'll pick your everything database while I do my demo. And in this case, I'm going to copy the events view. So I have the events view showing up. I could also create a new view, so I'd have a calendar, just like I did here. So the way you do that is you click the plus. Again, it's going to be my everything database. It's again going to be events. However, instead of the layout being the table, I'm going to change it to be a calendar. And so you'll see when I click outside of it, I'm seeing events that relate to my events database, or excuse me, my everything database with the events information. So we have right now just one item that's tagged as an event, and that's going to be showing up on the calendar. And if you'd like, you can rename this to like vCalendar or something like that. Note that you can also see there's a different little icon that's with it, and that's how you can delineate between the two. So we have our lesson plans, our events. Let's finish this up with admin tasks. So when we click on admin tasks, we have our admin tasks here, and over on my finished one, I'll go down to admin tasks, and I'm going to take a look at this. I have my database view put in again. So I'll just go over here and do / create linked view of database. You'll choose your everything, and I'll go with my demo, and I'll choose admin tasks to bring it in. And so I have my admin tasks that are showing here. So again, anything that has the tag of the admin tasks, and I have it grouped by the different tags. So that way I can see what's going on here. So that's walked you through and shows you how to set up your different pages and how you're working with different embedded views of your one database, your everything database. I'm curious. Are you just getting started with Notion? Or maybe you opened it once or twice and decided you weren't too sure how to get started and closed it again. Let me know in the comments what you're struggling with regarding Notion right now. I'd love to help. If you liked this video, please let me know by subscribing to my channel, giving this video a like, and comment down below and let me know what you're currently struggling with regarding Notion. I'll see you in the next video.